Hello everyone, and thank you for watching our presentation. We are Group 3 from Professor Sadowski's Psychology 1 class, part of the online summer term of 2025. Our topic is Narcissistic Personality Disorder, or NPD, a personality disorder that affects not only how individuals view themselves, but also how they interact with others in both personal and public settings. Our presentation is divided into three parts. Ryan Fowler will start us off with an overview and diagnosis of NPD, including key diagnostic criteria and prevalence. He'll also cover the causes and contributing factors like genetics, childhood experiences, and personality development. Next, Chloe Strassenberg, myself, will discuss the traits and behaviors associated with NPD, such as grandiosity, lack of empathy, and entitlement. I will also explain how these traits affect different types of relationships: romantic, familial, and professional. Then, Lindsay Kruger will explore narcissism in the age of social media, including how platforms can reinforce narcissistic traits. She'll wrap things up by discussing treatment and management strategies, including therapeutic approaches and the challenges often faced in treating individuals with NPD. We appreciate your time and hope this presentation offers a clear and insightful look into narcissistic personality disorder.
Narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which someone has a higher sense of self. And then they'll also have the need to want to seek out attention from other people to admire them and to like hold them up on a pedestal. Um, People with this disorder tend to have the lacking, they tend to lack the ability to actually care for people or understand their feelings. And behind this mask of this disorder, they tend to have, you know, oh, they tend to have like a low sense of self worth, and they get upset real easily off of like the smallest criticisms. And that mask they wear is what I can say is their confidence. Narcissistic personality disorder can be shown through psychiatric evaluation by their appearance, the behavior, speech, their thoughts, their mentality on things, and their impulse control, especially that too. And mental disorder (MPD) is an intricate condition that ends up having like a pattern of grandiosity and then the constant need for attention. It could be hereditary. It could be a hereditary thing through parents who have MPD, and that could be passed on to their children, which could be you, possibly. And according to psychoanalyst William Rich, the negative experiences in our lives, likely rejection, can like have a lasting effect of a brittle ego, and it can really bump up the effects of the development of NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder. There's not much to say. I mean, there's a lot to say, but I will just condense it down. I gotta read a little bit off of the slides, but or plenty off the slides. But the general prevalence of NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder, is 6.2%, and it tends to be seen more in men more than women. Um, Honestly, which really isn't surprising. Honestly, uh, narcissistic personality disorder tends to be higher in like certain demographics, like young adults, which does make sense. Black men and women, and Hispanic women as well. Um, and it is shown to be like associated with antisocial and like obsessive compulsive disorders. And yeah. Now on to the genetic factors of NPD, or narcissistic personality disorder. There are two types of this narcissism, which is one is grandiose and another one is vulnerable narcissism. Uh, Grandiose is like a less likely to be through genetics to get through genetics, but it's more of an influence through their environment. And then vulnerable is more likely to be genetic, and it's less likely to be affected by your environment. And the genes cause less than like 23% of this disorder as well. So yeah, and and um a disorder specialist by the name of Royce Lee has said that there's more oxidative stress within a narcissist's bloodstream, and it puts more pressure on their body. Environmental factors of MPD. The cultural and parental styles tend to have a huge part in development of narcissistic personality disorder, and especially in individual cultures too. And being an overprotective parent could really cause MPD by like the parent being way too overprotective, and then being overly praising their child, and then um being way too lenient with their child. And negative childhood experiences could have this effect as well, like rejection, with the causes of rejection, and like very criticizing parents, and that can lead to, well, narcissism. Psychological factors of narcissistic personality disorder can vary from person to person, and the same can be said for people with NPD that go through bad childhood experiences. Um, like being abused as a child and having traumatic events and being neglected could really develop into someone having a narcissistic personality disorder. And to add to that, people that have medical conditions like head traumas and stuff like that can also develop MPD. And some of those symptoms could be like wanting special treatment even though you've done nothing, being feeling superior to someone even though you're not, or even just well, you know, think.
Narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, is a complex and often misunderstood condition. While everyone may show occasional self centered behavior, NPD is defined by a consistent pattern of dysfunctional thinking and interpersonal behavior that affects every area of life. In this section, we'll look at three core traits and behaviors commonly seen in individuals with NPD: grandiosity and the need for admiration, a lack of empathy paired with manipulative tendencies, and a strong sense of entitlement often expressed through arrogance. These traits don't exist in isolation. They interact with each other and deeply influence how a person with NPD relates to the world around them. One of the most noticeable traits of narcissistic personality disorder is grandiosity. This isn't just confidence, it's an exaggerated sense of self importance that goes far beyond reality. Individuals with NPD often believe they're more talented, successful, or deserving than others, even without achievements to back it up. This grandiose self image is usually paired with a constant need for admiration. Narcissists may seek out compliments, fish for validation, and surround themselves with people who boost their ego. When they're not given the recognition they believe they deserve, they might become irritated, dismissive, or even aggressive. This intense desire to be admired often leads to shallow or imbalanced relationships where others are valued mainly for their ability to provide attention and praise. Attention and praise. Another core trait of narcissistic personality disorder is a noticeable lack of empathy. Individuals with NPD often struggle to recognize or care about how others feel. They may appear emotionally detached, indifferent, or even cold in situations when compassion is expected. Because they don't genuinely connect with others emotionally, narcissists may use people to serve their own needs. This can include manipulation, such as guilt tripping, gaslighting, or using charm to control situations. The goal is typically to protect their self-image, gain power, or maintain a sense of superiority. These behaviors leave others feeling confused, invalidated, or even emotionally drained, especially in close relationships. A strong sense of entitlement is another hallmark of narcissistic personality disorder. Individuals with NPD often believe they deserve special treatment regardless of effort or merit. This entitlement can show up in obvious ways, like demanding priority or recognition, or in more subtle expectations, such as assuming others should cater to their needs without question. This belief in their own superiority often leads to arrogance. They may talk down to others, dismiss opposing viewpoints, or act as though rules don't apply to them. When they feel challenged or criticized, they might respond with defensiveness or hostility rather than self-reflection. These attitudes can make it difficult for them to maintain respectful or balanced relationships in any setting. In our previous slides, we discussed the traits and behaviors of someone who might have narcissistic personality disorder, and we briefly touched on the relationships with those who have narcissistic personality disorder. So in this section, we're going to go over 3 relationship circles. The first one being romantic relationships, then we'll get into family and friend relationships, and then we'll dive into social and professional relationships with someone who has NPD. So to start out, romantic relationships with someone who has narcissistic personality disorder often start intensely. You may have heard this term before in today's very modern society. We call it love bombing. So at first, the narcissist may idealize their partner, showing them with affection and attention and love and care, very much so out of the gate. But over time, that admiration fades, and the same partner is devalued or criticized for not meeting unrealistic expectations. Emotional intimacy is usually lacking. Narcissists tend to avoid vulnerability and may become controlling or possessive as a way to protect their fragile ego. They might show signs of jealousy, issue ultimatums, or constantly monitor their partner's actions. Manipulation, like gaslighting, is also common. This involves making a partner question their memory or perception of events, which can lead to emotional confusion and dependency. These partners create unstable, sometimes toxic relationships where power and control take precedence over connection and respect. Outside of romantic relationships, narcissistic personality disorder also disrupts friendships and family connections. Friendships with narcissists are often very one-sided. They expect loyalty, praise, and attention, but rarely return the same support or interest. So, for example, if you have a friend that seems to reach out to you every time they're having a problem or they're going through an issue in their life, and you care for them and you are there for them emotionally, or you let them lean on you for support. And then if you experience something in your life that you may need to vent to them about, or you may need assistance with them, they turn away and they pull their friendship back. That is a standard trait of narcissistic personality disorder in a friendship. And then within families, narcissists may stir up conflict, play favorites, or use guilt to manipulate relatives. These behaviors can create lasting emotional damage and division among family members. Narcissists also tend to push past emotional and personal boundaries, acting as if they're entitled to others' time, privacy, or resources. And a good example for this is the overstepping mother-in-law. So if you have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, or a husband or a wife, and you often see it in movies, they play into this stereotype of the overbearing mother-in-law. Oftentimes that mother-in-law displays a lot of those traits. They stir up conflict between the husband and the wife. They play favorites with their son or their daughter, and then they use guilt to manipulate their relatives, which is typically their child that's in the relationship. And then, when confronted about their behavior, they rarely take accountability. Instead, they may deny, shift blame, or rewrite the situation entirely to avoid responsibility. And over time, these patterns lead to broken trust and unstable relationships within both friend groups and families. And then our last one that we're going to talk about is NPD in social and professional settings. And you most likely, if you have had a job before, or even in school with teachers or with a classmate, you probably have come across someone who has NPD tendencies in their social and professional settings. So, narcissistic traits can cause serious challenges in social and workplace environments. Individuals with NPD often struggle with collaboration. They may dominate conversations, ignore others' input, or take credit for group efforts. Their focus tends to be on status or recognition rather than true teamwork. They're also extremely sensitive to feedback, so even well meaning or constructive criticism can trigger defensiveness, withdrawal, or even aggressive behavior. In professional settings, this makes them difficult to supervise or work alongside over time. Manipulative behavior can also surface, such as exploiting coworkers for personal gain or undermining others to boost their own image. While they may appear confident or charismatic at first, their patterns of entitlement and disregard for others often result in burned bridges, damaged reputations, and a lack of lasting trust.
Hello, my name's Lindsay Kruger, and I'll be covering narcissism and social media. The topics I'll be going over in this section are the need for validation, attention seeking behavior, and social media addiction. So, to begin, the need for validation, narcissists tend to post excessive photos or selfies of themselves, and they do this because they crave validation from other people, and this can be in the form of comments or just likes on a post. And they use captions for self-praise, so narcissists can use captions to their advantage, as this is a way they can boast about themselves, what they are doing, or their accomplishments. These types of people love to be the center of attention, so they will say anything to grab people's attention online. Next, we have attention-seeking behavior. And to begin, I would just like to make a point that narcissists often thrive on attention and admiration, and social media offers a platform to garner this attention from a wide audience. So to begin, narcissists showcase physical appearance on their social media a lot. So this means that they view themselves as superior and post photos of themselves to receive feedback, and people essentially hyping them up. And this fuels their ego, and these types of people thrive on this type of attention. So this is why they like to post themselves on social media to receive the feedback that they want to hear. And next is comment bombing and overusing hashtags. So narcissists tend to think that they're always right, so they will go on other people's social media posts to give their opinion so they can subtly control the narrative to highlight what they think. And overusing hashtags on social media posts can promote the post to show up on more people's feed, and this can draw in more likes or comments as a way of getting attention. And like I mentioned earlier, they thrive on this type of thing, so they will do whatever they can to try to get across to many people as they can. Next, we have social media addiction, and narcissists use social media as a way to compare themselves to others and a way to make themselves feel superior over everybody else. So, narcissists often compare themselves to others to feel superior, making them addicted to social media, allowing them to judge others to make themselves feel higher than everyone else. And narcissists often use social media as a way to avoid themselves from their real life's insecurities. So many narcissists are insecure, so they use social media as a way to mask their insecurities. This facade that they create is a way for them to hide behind rejection, criticism, and failure that they may receive in the real world. For the next section I'll be talking about treatment and management strategies, and the 3 topics I'll be talking about are psychotherapy, medication, and setting boundaries and long-term management. So to begin with psychotherapy, there are 3 different types of therapy that I researched. To begin with cognitive behavioral therapy, this helps recognize and challenge distorted thoughts as well as calming the patient's ego. This type of therapy encourages healthier patterns of thinking, empathy development, and emotion regulation. Next is dialectical behavioral therapy, and this teaches skills like emotional regulation, distress tolerance, and interpersonal effectiveness. And this refers to the ability to effectively interact with others and build and maintain healthy relationships and achieve desired outcomes in social interactions. So that's what interpersonal effectiveness means. So this helps for those with co-occurring emotional instability or impulsivity problems. And finally, psychodynamic therapy. This type of therapy explores unconscious motivations behind grandiosity and low self-esteem and aims to foster self-awareness and build more realistic self-concepts. Next, we have medication, and there's no specific medications to target narcissistic personality disorder, but prescriptions may be prescribed to aid in depression, anxiety, mood stability, impulsivity, and irritability. So some prescriptions that may be prescribed are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors for depression and anxiety. For mood stability, you would be prescribed mood stabilizers, and for impulsivity and irritability, you'd be prescribed antipsychotics. Finally, we have setting boundaries and long-term management. So for narcissistic individuals, these tips will help in setting boundaries and managing your disorder. So learning to accept limits, compromise, and acknowledging your faults. Practice self-awareness, and this can be done through journaling your triggers, as well as reflecting your actions and how what you do might affect other people, and using tools like meditations to observe your thoughts. And as well as develop realistic self-esteem and work on self-worth that isn't tied to status, admiration, or appearance. And those who are dealing with narcissists, who want to set clear emotional boundaries, avoid enabling or reinforcing manipulative behaviors, and consider support groups for people affected by narcissistic personality disorder relationships.